What if I told you that the nicest person you know is actually living a lie? That behind every yes they give, every smile they flash, every time they put others first, they're slowly erasing themselves from existence. Here's a disturbing truth. People pleasers don't just struggle with boundaries. They're engaged in something far more sinister, the systematic destruction of their authentic self. And the worst part? They're doing it with the best of intentions. Think about it. You probably know someone who never says no, who always agrees, who bends over backward to make everyone happy. Maybe that person is you. On the surface, they seem like the perfect friend, the ideal employee, the dream partner. But scratch beneath that pleasant exterior and you'll find something unsettling. A person who has no idea who they actually are. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung understood this phenomenon better than anyone. He warned us about the dangers of excessive niceness, of hiding what he called our shadow, those parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge. According to Jung, when we repress our authentic nature to please others, we don't just lose ourselves. We become something far more dangerous, a hollow shell pretending to be human. But here's what's truly concerning. How many people are walking around right now, convinced they're being kind and considerate, when they're actually engaged in a form of psychological self-harm that's slowly draining their vitality? Before we dive deeper into this, if you like content like this, consider subscribing. These videos take a lot of research and time to make, and your support really helps keep this content coming. Plus, we're going to explore some profound truths about human nature that most people never discuss. Now let's break down what exactly people-pleasing really is. It's not just being nice. It's not just being considerate. People-pleasing is the compulsive need to gain approval and avoid conflict by sacrificing your own needs, wants, and even your identity. It's saying yes when you mean no. It's agreeing when you disagree. It's smiling when you're screaming inside. But here's where it gets interesting and disturbing. People-pleasing isn't really about helping others. It's about managing your own anxiety and fear of rejection. Every time a people-pleaser says yes to something they don't want to do, they're essentially saying no to themselves. So where does this show up? Everywhere. In relationships, people-pleasers become emotional chameleons, constantly shifting their personality to match what they think their partner wants. At work, they're the ones staying late, taking on extra projects, never pushing back on unreasonable demands. With friends, they're always available, always accommodating, always the one who adjusts their plans. But notice something crucial. People pleasers aren't equally nice to everyone. They're strategic about it. They please the people they perceive as having power over them. Bosses, romantic interests, anyone whose approval they desperately need. Meanwhile, they often neglect or even mistreat the people who love them unconditionally, like family members who will accept them regardless. The emotional roots run deep. Most people pleasers learned early that love was conditional. Maybe they had a parent who only showed affection when they were good. Maybe they were criticized for expressing anger or sadness. Maybe they learned that conflict meant abandonment. So they developed a survival strategy. Become whatever others need you to be, and you'll be safe. But here's the twisted irony. The very behavior that once protected them is now destroying them. They've become so good at reading others and adapting that they've lost touch with their own inner voice. They genuinely don't know what they want, what they feel, or who they are beneath the mask. The hidden cost becomes clear when you realize this. Every time you choose to please others over being authentic, you're sending a message to your unconscious mind that your true self isn't worthy of love. You're literally training yourself to believe that you have to earn acceptance by being fake. And over time, this creates a profound split in your psyche. You end up living a double life: the pleasant, agreeable person everyone sees, and the real you that's been pushed so far underground that even you've forgotten it exists. This isn't just exhausting, it's psychologically dangerous. This is where Carl Jung's insights become absolutely crucial. Jung wasn't just a psychiatrist, he was an explorer of the human psyche's deepest, most hidden corners. Born in 1875 in Switzerland, he initially worked closely with Freud, before breaking away to develop his own revolutionary understanding of the mind. Where Freud focused on sexuality and repression, Jung was fascinated by something else: the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. Jung's concept of the shadow is crucial here. The shadow, according to Jung, contains all the aspects of our personality that we've rejected, denied, or hidden from ourselves and others. It's not just our bad qualities, it's everything we've deemed unacceptable: your anger, your selfishness, your sexual desires, your ambition, your need for recognition, your capacity for cruelty. All of it gets stuffed into the shadow. Now here's Jung's radical insight. The shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It doesn't become less powerful when you pretend it doesn't exist. Instead, it grows stronger, more primitive, and more dangerous. It begins to control your behavior in ways you don't even realize. For people pleasers, this is devastating. They've spent so much energy suppressing their shadow, their capacity to say no, to disappoint others, to prioritize their own needs, that they've created what Jung would call a false self. They've become identified with their persona, the mask they wear in public, while their authentic self withers away in the darkness. Jung warned that when we live too far from our shadow, we become what he called inflated, convinced of our own goodness while unconsciously acting out our repressed impulses in destructive ways. The people pleaser who never gets angry directly might become passive-aggressive. The person who never says no might sabotage projects through forgetfulness or mistakes. But here's what's truly significant about Jung's theory. He believed that the greater the split between your conscious identity and your shadow, the more likely you are to project your repressed qualities onto others. People pleasers sometimes become critical of those who display the very traits they've rejected in themselves. They may feel frustrated by selfish people, aggressive people, difficult people, not realizing they're seeing their own repressed shadow reflected back at them. Jung's solution was integration, not elimination. He didn't believe we should get rid of our shadow. He believed we should acknowledge it, understand it, and integrate it into our conscious awareness. Only by accepting our full humanity, including our capacity for selfishness, anger, and darkness, can we become whole, authentic individuals. In modern terms, Jung was describing what we now understand as emotional intelligence and self-awareness. But his insights go deeper than contemporary psychology. He understood that authenticity isn't just about being nice to yourself, it's about accepting that you're capable of being not nice, and that this capacity is essential to your psychological health. To understand how this plays out in real life, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah is a 34-year-old marketing manager who seems to have it all together. She's the person everyone goes to for help. She volunteers for extra projects. She remembers everyone's birthdays. She's always available for a friend in crisis. Her co-workers love her, her boss praises her, her friends rely on her. But Sarah has a secret. She's completely miserable. She works 60-hour weeks, not because she loves her job, but because she can't bear the thought of disappointing her boss. She's in a relationship with someone she's not sure she even likes, but he needed her support during a difficult time, and she couldn't say no. She has no hobbies, no passions, no goals of her own, just an endless cycle of meeting other people's needs. Here's where Jung's shadow theory becomes crystal clear. Sarah's shadow contains her anger, her selfishness, her ambition, her sexual desires, her need for recognition. She's spent so long suppressing these aspects of herself that she genuinely believes she doesn't have them. She sees herself as naturally giving, naturally selfless, naturally accommodating. But watch what happens when her shadow leaks out. Sarah becomes incredibly resentful, though she'd never admit it. She makes subtle digs at co-workers who leave on time. She judges her friends for being selfish when they prioritize their own needs. She has mysterious health problems that conveniently appear when she's overwhelmed but can't say no directly. The breaking point comes when Sarah's sister asks her to help plan their mother's 70th birthday party. Sarah immediately says yes, even though she's already overwhelmed. She spends weeks organizing everything, coordinating with family members, handling all the details. The party is a huge success. Everyone praises Sarah for her effort. But that night, Sarah has a panic attack. She finds herself crying uncontrollably, feeling a rage so intense it scares her. For the first time in years, she allows herself to think, "I don't want to do this anymore." This is what Jung called the return of the repressed. Sarah's shadow has finally broken through her carefully constructed persona. All that suppressed anger, resentment, and selfishness comes flooding back. She's terrified because she's been taught to believe these feelings make her a bad person. But here's the twist. This breakdown is actually a breakthrough. For the first time in decades, Sarah is feeling her authentic emotions. She's connecting with parts of herself she's been denying. The rage isn't just about the party. It's about years of saying yes when she meant no, of giving away her life piece by piece. The question becomes, what happens next? Sarah has two choices. She can stuff these feelings back down, convince herself it was just stress, and return to her people-pleasing patterns. Or she can do what Jung suggested, integrate her shadow, accept her full humanity, and begin the difficult work of becoming authentic. Most people choose the first option. They're too scared of disappointing others, too terrified of conflict, too convinced that their worth depends on their niceness. But the cost is enormous. They never discover who they really are beneath the mask. So how do you break free from this prison of niceness? Most people never escape this cycle, but if you understand these principles, you'll see a way out. Jung's insights, combined with modern psychology, offer a roadmap for integration and authenticity. The first strategy is shadow work, acknowledging your darkness. Start by identifying what you've rejected about yourself. What qualities do you judge most harshly in others? What emotions do you never allow yourself to feel? Your shadow often reveals itself through your judgments. Make a list of the traits you despise: selfishness, anger, laziness, aggression, neediness. Now here's the hard part. Acknowledge that you possess these qualities too. You're not a saint. You're a human being with the full spectrum of human emotions and impulses. The goal isn't to act on every impulse, but to acknowledge them. When you feel angry, don't immediately suppress it. Ask yourself, what is this anger telling me about my needs? When you feel selfish, don't judge it. Explore it. What do I need that I'm not getting? The second strategy is the boundary experiment. Start small. Pick one person and one situation where you typically say yes automatically. Practice saying no. Not with excuses, not with elaborate explanations. Just, I can't do that, or that doesn't work for me. Notice what happens in your body when you consider saying no. That anxiety, that fear, that voice telling you you're being selfish, that's your people-pleasing conditioning talking. Breathe through it. The discomfort is temporary, the freedom is permanent. Remember, saying no to others is saying yes to yourself. Every boundary you set is an act of self-respect, a declaration that your needs matter too. The third strategy is the authenticity practice. Jung believed that wholeness comes from integrating all aspects of ourselves. Start expressing your authentic opinions even when they're unpopular. Share your preferences even when others disagree. Voice your needs even when it feels uncomfortable. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or cruel. It means becoming real. Practice saying things like, I disagree with that. I don't enjoy that activity. I need some time to think about it. That doesn't align with my values. The people who truly love you will respect your authenticity. The people who only liked you when you were accommodating, well, they were never really your friends anyway. The fourth strategy is values clarification. People pleasers often lose touch with their own values because they're constantly adapting to others' expectations. Take time to identify what actually matters to you, not what you think should matter. Ask yourself, if no one else's opinion mattered, what would you choose? What would you do with your time? What kind of person would you be? What would you stand for? Write these values down. Use them as a filter for decisions. When someone asks something of you, check it against your values. Does this align with who I want to be? Does this serve my authentic self? The fifth strategy is the relationship audit. Look at your relationships honestly. Which ones are based on your people-pleasing behavior? Which people only like you when you're accommodating? Which relationships drain your energy because you're constantly performing? This is painful, but necessary. Some relationships may not survive your authenticity. That's not a bug, it's a feature. You're not losing relationships. You're discovering which ones were real. The relationships that survive your authenticity, where people love you for who you are, not what you do for them, those are worth keeping. They're the foundation of a life worth living. Remember, this is not about becoming selfish or cruel. It's about becoming whole. Jung understood that we need both our light and our shadow to be complete human beings. We need our capacity for generosity and our ability to say no. We need our desire to help others and our recognition of our own needs. The goal isn't to swing from people-pleasing to selfishness. It's to find the middle ground where you can be kind without being self-destructive, where you can help others without losing yourself, where you can be nice without being fake. Here's a question for you. What's one way you've been people-pleasing that you're ready to reconsider? What's one boundary you've been hesitant to set? Share it in the comments. Sometimes declaring our intentions can be the first step toward positive change. And here's something to consider. Jung didn't just study individual psychology. He understood that our personal shadows connect to something much larger, the collective unconscious, the shared patterns of humanity. But first, you need to do the work on yourself. You need to integrate your shadow, set your boundaries, and discover who you really are beneath the mask of niceness. Because until you understand your own patterns, you can't see how they play out on a larger scale. The journey from people-pleasing to authenticity isn't easy. It requires courage, self-compassion, and a willingness to sometimes disappoint others in service of your own truth. But it's the only path to genuine freedom, authentic relationships, and real self-respect. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Your frustration with selfish people might be pointing you toward your own repressed selfishness. Your reaction to aggressive people might be revealing your own suppressed anger. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. And the sooner you learn its lessons, the sooner you can stop living a performance and start living your life.